Okay, welcome to the Hat of Many Things with Mike and
Tom.
Every fucking time.
That was the fastest yet, I swear.
Why does it make me laugh so much?
Because now it's a thing.
Yeah, you're welcome to the Hat of Many Things. I'm Mike, as I'm sure you're aware by now. I'm sat here with Tom. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm pretty good, thanks.
Are you sad that Game of Thrones is over?
Yes. I was very much enjoying it, and it was cut brutally short, like many other things in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, well, the good news is, now we can talk about it.
That's true. Maybe it would be worth just putting a big spoiler horn on right now. Where do we do this?
Spoilers!
We're going to talk about Season 7 and the rest of Game of Thrones, if you haven't watched Game of Thrones.
And it has been a while since Season 7's ended, so we're assuming that you've already watched it, enjoyed it, listened to all of the podcasts available on it, and will be coming across this thinking it's very late. Maybe if we'd communicated by Raven, it would have been released on time.
Yeah, but, you know.
Given how fast Ravens appear to travel these days.
Oh, yeah. Everything in the Game of Thrones universe now travels at near the speed of light, I'm pretty certain.
Just to address that, other people may not know what we're on about already, but Neil deGrasse Tyson. There was a video on YouTube where Neil deGrasse Tyson was explaining how that Raven broke the laws of physics.
Yes, it was very good. We'll definitely put that in the show notes.
So, Season 7, how did we feel, Tom?
Overall, I enjoyed it. I mean,
Don't answer for me. I said, how did we feel?
How did we feel? Oh, sorry.
How do you feel?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think overall, I enjoyed it. That there are probably things that are a bit nitpicky, and obviously it's now well past where the books are, so all sorts of crazy stuff is happening. But overall, I found it thoroughly enjoyable and wanted to watch each episode. And, you know, I think that's how... I feel that's like the general feeling people have had. I don't know, 7 episodes meant they cut things a bit short.
How did you feel about the appearance of one certain ginger songwriter?
I didn't really care.
Yeah, why were people upset by that? People were upset by... Did you know people were upset by that?
Yeah, I saw all about it a few days later. In fact, before I'd even seen the episode, I was aware.
Seems a little bit silly, doesn't it? I mean, it's not like Sigur Rós hadn't been in it.
Yeah, I mean, their appearance was more understated, but I think the kind of criticism I saw that I kind of understood was, it kind of took us out at the moment because we definitely recognised him as a celebrity. Whereas with the Sigur Rós
nobody recognised Sean Bean.
No, but he's an actor. Like, you're used to him playing a different character. I think it was just dropped in out of nowhere. Some people were like, "Oh, that's weird," but I quite liked it. I mean, the song he sang.
You wait for season 8 when the rock turns up. You know, people lose their minds.
Yeah, and you know, there was like a nice story about it. Like, Maisie Williams really liked him and wanted to get him on the show and stuff and things like that. And I was like, "It's fine as far as I'm concerned." I didn't care. It was an all right scene.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't jarring to me because he's not like, I don't know, Justin Bieber, where he's got to look perfect and stuff, is he? Ed Sheeran's just like a scruffy little ginger lad from England. Fits right in the Game of Thrones universe, really, doesn't he? Just with the other soldiers in the other uniforms, singing a song about Lannisters or whatever it was. Yeah. Hand of Gold. I don't know, I think he fit right in. He wasn't terrible, he didn't deliver any lines really badly, he was an actor on a show, and I don't think there was an issue with it. Yeah. I find it really weird that people had an issue with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I didn't see it. Like a lot of these internet controversies, it was mostly clickbaity articles.
What do we think Season 7 needed less of?
That's a tough one. Like, I mean, maybe less fast travel, but I don't know how they could have tied everything together without it.
It did feel like we'd gone from the Elder Scrolls 3 to the Elder Scrolls 4. Fast travel has suddenly been enabled.
Yeah, I mean, like, I generally didn't notice it until I stopped to think. That it wasn't generally jarring.
Oh, no, I noticed it, right? Was it episode 2 or 3? End of episode 2, start of episode 3, maybe? Might be 3 or 4. When Daenerys attacks the convoy.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was a good episode.
Yeah, but it really wound me up because Daenerys is at Dragonstone, which is on the east coast of Westeros. Yeah? Let me double check this because if it's on the west coast.
It's southeast coast. I've played enough of the Game of Thrones board game to know where it is.
Right. And You know, the Tyrell lands are on the west, right?
Yes, but they were
Okay.
en route, which is vague. I'm going to bring up a map of Westeros so I can also be following along with what you say.
She's on the southeast coast. No, she's not even on the southeast coast. She's on the east coast. It's like halfway, right?
Yeah.
High Garden is all the way down in the fucking bottom left. It's just above Dawn. So they're somewhere between there, right, and King's Landing. And honestly, I would assume that they're closer to... They're probably about halfway or so, yeah?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you know, Daenerys is at Dragonstone, cut one scene, cut another scene. There's absolutely no indication of any sort of time skip, yeah? And then someone's like, but I think it's Greyjoy. Theon.
Yeah.
I think Theon is like, but where is she? And he's like, John's like, but she's not here. Where is she? And then all of a sudden, she's fucking in the middle of John's army. Or in the middle of Jaime's army.
Yeah.
I was just like, I just watching it, I was like, how the fuck did they get there so fast?
I mean, that one didn't stand out so egregious to me because she's on a dragon.
But her fucking Dothraki horde isn't.
That's true, actually. Where on earth? I'm just trying to work out. Maybe if they landed at Storm's End, they could have ridden inland from there. But that seems weird. Yeah, the army's a bit... But yeah, at the time I didn't twig that. The thing that definitely caught me was the whole... By the way, we're suddenly going to go fly in a day to save John. I was like,
so we're going to go from...
what?
We're going to get a raven from above the wall to Dragonstone, and then a dragon from Dragonstone to above the wall in less than 24 hours?
Yeah. That
How
one.
long, right, did it take Arya Stark to try and get back to Winterfell? Like 3 years? 4 years?
To be fair, she is on foot, not on a dragon. But yeah, I don't think dragons are... They're not planes, right? They presumably move quite fast because they're flying, but how long would it take a raven to fly that distance? Definitely more than 12 hours.
It'd take a peregrine falcon more than 12 hours to fly that distance. It's the fastest animal that's existed in real life.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that was a bit unbelievable, but they needed to take a dragon up there to increase the plot of the story.
Did you hear the excuses?
I think I've seen some stuff.
So the directors basically said that they try to... Apparently above the wall, it's basically almost an eternal twilight. There's no real proper day or night.
Right, yeah.
So nobody could really get a good judge of how long they were stood on that ice for, and they were probably just stood on that ice for longer than the viewers thought they were. And this entire sort of thing was suffixed with, and honestly, we hoped no one would notice.
Yeah.
Like, are you joking? People watch Game of Thrones for every little hint. You can't do anything in Game of Thrones and hope the fans won't notice.
Yeah, I think, like you were saying, what are your criticisms? What would you have less of in this season? They very much dropped kind of the slow political kind of drama aspect, and now they're just like, we've got to wrap this up, guys. We've got 14 episodes over 2 seasons to kill everyone, or not.
Peter Baelish, man.
That I thought that was well done. Some people I don't think liked it, but as an act, like his acting in that scene was really good. Like him going from I'm totally okay. Oh, what the shit is happening? I'm dead. Kind of like that bit where he's like down to pleading, like because he only cares about his own skin, was really good.
His acting was good. I don't really like where they took Sansa, to be honest.
No, I mean, I think that's been going on for several seasons of her
She has
story.
been nothing but a completely gullible, naive, annoying little girl for the whole show. And all of a sudden she's Machiavellian.
Yeah, I mean...
And I can understand how she could get there from the stories that she's been through and what's happened to her. But they didn't show any of that growth.
Yeah.
So it's left to be assumed. Like, as far as we could tell, she was still being manipulated, she was still being used, she was still falling things. And you say, oh, but that's the beauty of it. She was doing this and it was convincing everybody, even the audience. I'm like, yeah, but you're not supposed... The audience needs to see this growth for it to be believable.
It's show, don't tell, which is the thing they always say about writing books. And in the books...
And they didn't show it.
Yeah. In the books, she's clearly had this setup. And
in the books, she's not even there.
Oh, no, she's not. She's not. But, like... She started having that setup.
She never married Ramsay Bolton?
No. I mean, that's all... I think if we get onto that in a second, like, moving characters together. But I think just the point is in the books, you get stuff from her perspective, and you can see her starting to become like this manipulative stateswoman. But if you haven't read that bit of the books, you'd be like completely blindsided by it. And as you say, she hasn't even got to that. I mean, presumably she will end up back in Winterfell in the books, but maybe 2 books time.
It's just it wasn't believable. I couldn't really swallow it.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise. I did quite like the Starks all getting back together, though. That was quite fun.
It felt incredibly anticlimactic for Peter Baelish, in my opinion.
In what way? Like,
it was really left field, out of nowhere. Just all of a sudden, like they spent multiple episodes building the tension between Arya and Sansa, only to go, surprise, there isn't any, and Peter Baelish is dead. Like, building tension just to make it have never been there in the first place. I don't see the point in building that tension. There's no payoff. There's no climax.
So people will always. I think people always find different points where they kind of agree or don't agree with these. Kind of intentionally pulling the wool over the viewer's eyes for effect. And yeah, I think they probably missed the mark a bit. But I always feel like Baelish was just going to go down with that one thing he didn't expect. Like
so did I. But I thought that one thing he didn't expect would have been something like white fucking walkers.
Yeah.
Because he can... That would have been beautiful, right? If just the army of the dead rip into pieces. Because he can manipulate and plan around whoever he wants. But that is something that no amount of planning or manipulation will ever save you from.
I get that. I mean, I think, personally, I've long had a theory within the books, and, I mean, this is essentially kind of their nod to what may come in the books. But I've always had this theory that he would eventually get his comeuppance via Sansa, purely because of this. His one weakness is liking her mum and then her. I've always been like, something's going to go wrong from there, and it's obviously setting itself up in the books. But
once again, in the show, you couldn't even tell if he actually liked her at all, or if it was just a complete bullshit lie.
There is one of the big problems with adapting Game of Thrones for the screen is how much is in the characters' heads in the story, where you literally know characters. I mean, well, whichever perspective character you were with, you literally know what they're thinking. And then the other characters you know very little about. And obviously that's very hard to do on film.
Are the memes right? Are all of the female perspectives usually like, I'm walking down the street, but my boobs are rather pert and bouncy?
No, I don't think so, not in these books.
Have you seen those memes? It's just like
I
male fantasy writers trying to write from female viewpoints.
Yeah, there are a lot of authors who do that, and I've seen a few Tumblr posts like writing a male character from a female perspective, like taking the piss out of it, which is quite funny. But I think, in general, people think George R. R. Martin's portrayal is pretty good because he writes interesting characters and they happen to have a gender. Like, I think that's the key thing he does. I mean, Sansa is definitely a bit wishy-washy early on, but she has to grow somehow.
She's not even wishy-washy, she's just a conceited little bitch.
Yeah, she's a mixture of that and the kind of perfect, kind of wants to be a pretty princess character, and then her life goes horrifically away from what she expects. But I mean, that's what you do. To have good character development, you take someone and throw them into an awful situation.
While we're on the subject of Starks, Bran Stark, see how many people were complaining that he was insensitive about what had happened to Sansa when he was talking to her.
Yeah.
As if he's human.
Yeah, I mean, his storyline has gone interesting. I mean, he's basically a tree now, right? The trees are within us. That might be a reference you don't get. Yeah, that was interesting. Like, I mean, that was kind of what it was building to.
Like, people like, why is he so cold and callous towards him? Like, because he's not fucking human. He has, like, the collective history of the world, the past, present, and future, all in his head at the same time. If you think he's just a little boy with his sister again, you really don't understand what's happened to him.
I think the thing that I found harder with Bran was the fact that, as an actor, he's now, like, twice the height he was, like, 2 seasons ago. And every time I see him, I'm like, how did he grow so quickly when everyone else stayed the same? Puberty. Now you're a tree, son. Oh dear. You can see everything.
What else have we had this season that was cool? Now,
we
talked briefly about what it needed less of. Apparently, they clearly decided it needed less dragons.
Well, it's the same number of dragons, just one is now evil.
Do you know what it needed? Do you know what it needed more of?
What did it need more of?
Euron Greyjoy.
Yes, like I mean, he's a complete knob, but that's fun to watch.
episode 1 and 2, he was fantastic, right? He was terrifying in a way that no character in Game of Thrones has been in a while.
Yeah.
Because he's not as conceited, arrogant, or stupid as Joffrey.
Yep.
He's not as conceited, arrogant, or stupid as Cersei.
Yep.
And he was not as stupid as Ramsay. He's not got that unnecessarily cruel streak in him that Ramsay had, that was essentially his weakness. In that he had to indulge that, or, he had to do nothing. Euron is cruel, but he's competent.
Yeah, he's competently crazy.
Yeah. And he was fantastic in episodes 1 and 2 when he was doing things. And I thought, I really wanted this season to be the season where they killed Cersei. Because I'm fed up with her, and I'm bored of her. Lena Headey has done a great job, but the character of Cersei has done all that she has left to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's just...
Her being pregnant again, if she's pregnant and not lying about it, is the curveball that might give her some more longevity. But she's had her whole arc. She's had her bit. It's okay to kill her now. She's kind of done her time.
Yeah.
And that would have opened the door for Euron to be the last big spanner in the works.
Yeah, that would have been really interesting.
And be crazy enough to carry on doing whatever he wants to do, even if the Horde is coming.
Yeah.
But, they didn't do that. And he was in it for, 2 episodes, and then half an episode later, and then he just went.
Yeah, I enjoyed the bit where they had the big meeting, and he was part of Cersei's ploy, but I also kind of didn't believe it, because I don't think Euron takes anyone's orders, even if he is pretending to listen to the Queen,
Well, we were watching it, right? And we did genuinely think for a minute that maybe he'd done what he said he was doing and just left and gone, right, fuck this.
Yeah. No,
because he's so selfish as a character that it's completely believable behaviour.
Yeah.
And I liked that. But then when it's like, he's actually going to go hire some mercenaries and bring them back over, why would he do that? Why would anybody... it's like Cersei's actions, they only make sense because she's fucking mental. She's a complete megalomaniac. Right?
Yeah.
But why would anybody not band together to fight off what's coming? It just makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's...
but the fact that they thought going north of the wall and catching one of these things and bringing it back would somehow convince her as well, it was all a bit strange and a bit silly.
I get from Jon's point of view, he needs to prove this to people, and I get what they were trying to do. They were setting it up, so you also had Daenerys being like, I'm not sure about this, but he's quite hot. We'll get to that a bit later. She was like, he's quite hot, but I also don't believe him about these White Walkers. And then she had to go there and lose a dragon, and now she's like, I am really in the game. I understand everything that's going on.
And that made sense. Yeah, but once again, it was all rushed. It was all rushed and forced.
But I think they were trying to set Cersei up to be the flip side of that, to try and show, we have good queen, bad queen, but I don't know as if they quite pulled it off.
They also had this whole thing of, you need to be a good queen and not just burn down King's Landing and retake it because then you know better than anyone else. No, you don't have time for this shit. There's an army of the undead coming. Go and burn down Cersei and just tell all of her troops they're your troops now and they're marching north.
Yeah.
You honestly don't have time for this shit.
She only has to burn down the Red Keep. She doesn't have to burn down all of King's Landing. But yeah.
That's what I mean. And yes, she wants to minimise human suffering, but at this point, the best way to do that long term is to get the fuck on with it.
Yeah. I get early on there was that whole kind of her not really believing it, but also we know she wants to burnonate the villages. But burnonate the bad guys anyway.
How do you feel about Daenerys, man? Because she's still super popular.
In general, I still think she's pretty good as a character. Most of the time, I'm happy with what's going on.
Okay.
She has this kind of conflicted side, which is interesting, and then she bones Jon at the end, and we were like, okay, so that happened.
So, my feelings on Daenerys are not the most common feelings on Daenerys, I don't think. She winds me up, right? And it's not her as a character, because everything that she does is true to her character, and it makes sense, right? It's the way the writers approach her.
Right.
So, everybody goes on about what a great leader she is, and how they all believe, even Jon I believe in you now. I'm going to bend the knee and everyone's going to follow you. You're such a great queen. She's not. She's a terrible queen. She makes terrible decisions.
Yeah.
She's an absolutely awful leader who is fixated on a quote-unquote birthright and your dad was a rebel and he took my rightful throne. Yeah, and how did your ancestors take the throne? There is literally no difference between what the rebels did when they deposed your family and how your family gained the throne. What on earth? Like, if you're such a smart, noble, good leading character, why are you so fucking thick?
I think that particular thing, I don't think is necessarily bad, because that's literally how she was brought up for like 16 years. And I think the point is, at the end, she'll be kind of like, oh yeah.
But it's also how her brother was brought up.
Yeah, but that's the thing. She's come from
she fucking hates him.
Bad family, essentially. And I think she will eventually overcome it, but maybe it's taken a bit longer than it should.
Yeah, so A, that's a bit annoying. But B, the fact that everyone else seems to think she's perfect, that winds me up.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it depends on
like, every character in the show appears to be completely blind to her faults and flaws, and just want to kiss her boots.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it makes sense for the freed slaves. Literally, they're like, you are the best person.
I get it for the Unsullied.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get it for any of the slaves who were freed and joined her.
The Dothraki thing I'm not a big fan of, because they took a Dothraki horde off her and then just decided to give her a new one. And that whole arc was actually terrible in my opinion. So before that, I really liked Daenerys.
The bit where she went and like was in the middle of nowhere and then set fire to them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so they take her because she's getting too powerful and they need to slow her growth down. Right? She's got an army, she's got the Unsullied, she's got the dragon, she's got a city. Like, oh god, we need to do something about this. So they just drop her in the middle of a Dothraki horde, and a dragon just leaves her there.
So
and flies off, and then she's like, they try to give her this impression of vulnerability. Yeah, They go, oh, we're taking everything back off you, and by the end of the season, she's got it all back and more.
Yeah,
and she's got it back in the most just like convenient way. Oh, we're just gonna put you in here with these people, and then you're gonna just kill them. She's like a Mary Sue, except she's not flawless. Everyone just treats her like she is.
Yeah, I can see what you mean there. So that particular thing with the dragon again, this is one of those things where it's like, I think it was badly translated from the books, because we have X number of books to go on that doesn't cover what there is, and at the end of the most recent book, she's attacked, she flees with her dragon, and you get that bit where she's in the wilderness, which is done really well. Like, she's not sure if she can control Drogon. He fucks off, and she's left in the middle of nowhere. And then she's just wandering around, and I can't... See, now this is the problem where it crosses with the series, is I think she kind of meets the... I think at the end of that book, she's basically met... she's just been picked up by the... Dothraki horde, yeah. And she's kind of like, well, I'm a queen. But obviously they knock her down a peg. I can't remember if much has happened at that point in the books.
The thing for me is it feels like this whole arc is designed to give her some vulnerability again, to give her some... Because she's got too powerful almost.
Yeah.
But at no point does it ever seem like she's actually under any threat, because you're watching it, you just go... And this is what Game of Thrones has never done before this, right? You just go, well, it's Daenerys, so she's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it takes less than a season, and all of a sudden she's got an even bigger army than she did at the start. And at no point did she ever actually feel threatened.
Again, I think this is one of the things where it's been not as well translated from the books as it could have been, because when you're in her head, this stuff seems more real. And, I mean, even in the books at this point, obviously we know she's going to survive and make it out okay, because, like, she has to. You need the dragons to fight the White Walkers, basically. That's obvious. But I feel like the bit, as much of that as there has been done in the book, has been done better. How that arc's going to sort itself out in the books, I don't know, because I imagine there is still going to be the rush, get them across kind of bit. I mean, I think he said he's only got 2 books left to do, and one's almost out, or has been almost out for the last 3 years.
I've not read any of them, because Game of Thrones, I've always been a huge proponent of books are almost always better than film or TV. But the Game of Thrones show was that good that I went, I'm not going to pick up the books until I've seen the show, until the show's done its run, because I don't want to spoil anything for the show, because the show is that well made.
I see exactly what you mean. I saw the first episode of season 1, like after it was out on Blu-ray. I went and bought the Blu-rays because I didn't have Sky. went and watched the
and
first
you just
episode.
really need to know if Sean Bean was going to die.
I was pretty certain Sean Bean was going to die. It's Sean Bean, like, spoiler by casting as opposed to spoiler by any other means.
You say that, but he's in Supernatural at the minute.
Oh, is he? I really... That's on my long list.
Very
of things
brief
to watch.
aside, I stopped watching Supernatural at season 8 because it should have ended at season 5.
Oh, wow. I didn't realise it was going on that long.
No, it's like 11 or 12 now.
Jesus.
But he's playing one of the 5 fundamental aspects of the universe, rather than, like, they're, like, above the archangels and stuff. He is time.
Ooh. That's cool.
So he's effectively unkillable.
That's pretty
I wonder if he'll find a way.
I mean, probably. Life finds a way.
Have you heard my theory on why Sean Bean has to die and everything?
I'm not sure. I know we've discussed this before, but I can't remember if you told me your theory, so go ahead.
He used all of his spare lives filming Sharp.
Yes, you have mentioned this. Yeah.
Sharp survived so many instances where he should die that this has to be redressed and the balance restored.
Yeah. So yeah, I watched episode 1, and we know how episode 1's ends. They just throw Bran out the window, and I was like,
Oh my god, yes.
yeah. I was like,
Yes.
oh my god, that's an amazing cliffhanger. And my immediate
It's the
thought,
thing that cemented the pilot episode as something like, you have to watch the rest of it. Like, you have to watch this now.
so I
And the
was,
fact that it immediately followed, like, it was shock following shock. So you've got this like nice medieval show with all these people, and the most shocking thing that's happened so far is, oh, there's been a murder, we need to investigate the murder, and Tyrion slapped Joffrey.
yeah,
Which we
Which
can
was
all
brilliant.
watch on loop to
Yeah.
extreme satisfaction.
it only gets better every loop.
Yeah, right. And then you're just like, oh, hang on a minute, twincest. oh, twincest followed by attempted child murder. Wow. Okay. And to highlight how good this show is, the guy that threw a child out of a window for catching him fucking his twin sister is now one of the most sympathetic and likable characters in the show.
Yeah, his arc's been really good.
And that's not because everyone else is so bad. He is genuinely a likable, sympathetic. How good of a writer do you have to be to take a character from child murdering sister shagger,
Yeah.
to I want this guy to survive and to do well, and I think he'd probably be a good king.
Yeah. I think that's all down to George R.R. Martin's original writing, because that arc is all there.
What a redemption arc! And speaking of redemption arcs, my boy Theon.
Yes.
Oh boy. It took him 7 seasons, but we're there. Right? And next season he's going to get to go fight the guy, the scariest human guy in the show, barring possibly the Mountain.
Yeah, no, his arc's good because, again, most of it has been plotted out by George R.R. Martin, but then at the end of whichever book he was last in, he basically escapes from Winterfell, and you're like, okay, what's happening next? There's so much stuff that hasn't yet happened in the books, which
Goes
is
through
like,
so much shit, like,
Yeah.
and he's such a cunt. He's done so much wrong, right? But we were watching it, and in episode 1 at the end, I think it's episode 1, when Euron crashes into the ship and takes Yara, right? And you sat there, and he's confronted him, and you're like, go on, do it, fight him, right? Because you're like, I'm sat there going, he needs a redemption arc. This character needs to be brought full circle to complete his story.
Yeah.
Or this enormous amount of potential is wasted. And he dives off the boat, and I'm so horrendously disappointed with him. And with the writers, because I'm like, come on, it's time. He's back on his feet for the first time. He's recovering a sense of who he was. And he bottles it. And you're like, no. And he spends the whole season getting it back.
Yeah.
And it's Jon, who, let's face it, out of every character in the show, Jon makes the best king.
oh, yeah.
If you could pick a character that's still alive to rule Westeros,
I think the key is still alive.
not based on how much you like them, but based on how good they would be at the role, Jon.
Yeah.
Possibly followed by Davos or
Ooh,
Jaime.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably have thrown in, if still alive, Tywin would be a very good, very effective king, but not necessarily
Yes.
what people consider a good king. As
Yeah,
Wade once
whereas-
put it, the most reasonable man in Westeros.
Whereas Jon and Robb are both just good people.
Yeah.
Robb was a great guy. I really liked Robb. And I liked that he died due to a mistake as well. He made
He was
a choice
too
and it bit
human.
him on the ass. Yeah. I think fucking Daenerys is a terrible leader. She's just a pouty, whiny, angry child. I want my way and I want it now. But you can't have it. Burn him. Whoa. I can see why everyone tells her she's a great queen. They'll fucking be eaten by a dragon if they don't. Like, she's terrifying. She's not remotely sane.
Yeah, there's definitely a fair amount of her father in her. And
yeah, I don't consider her a sane character.
Yeah, she's very, like, she's passionate, but then she, like, follows through with burning people. Like,
you know who else would have been a really fucking competent king? Littlefinger.
Yeah.
That kingdom would have run like clockwork.
Oh, yeah. Like, he'd have known everything that was going on, and, yeah, they'd have had money. They wouldn't have had to be like, hey, we need Mycroft to come over and give us a load more money.
But all in all, it's still a good show. It's still the best show ever made. It's had high points and low points. I think season 3 culminating in the Red Wedding is still the peak of the show so far.
Yeah, that was obviously an amazing scene, but also just the fact that the entire subreddit had kept stum, and there was like that day after when they were like, hey guys, you now know what those of us who read the books know. Wasn't it great? And it was just like the internet, like never has the internet collectively so well kept a secret. It was just an impressive thing to behold.
Just whole areas of the country which are currently, concreted over, and it's a good job because, let's face it, if that many people were collectively watching that scene in the countryside, we'd have no farmland left. The earth would be salted.
One of my favourite things about that as well is it's truly inspired by, like, he'd read up a lot on English history.
Yeah, it's War of the Roses, wasn't it? Wasn't it originally basically War of the Roses inspired fiction? Like fan fiction almost. And then he was just like, I know, let's just throw in some fucking dragons.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. I mean, that's why it's written in that kind of very medieval style. And initially, in the books, the kind of, you have a bit with the White Walkers at the very beginning, and then you just ignore them for the whole of the Game of Thrones book. And the series essentially does the same thing, and no one really believes that they're real. And you're just like, okay, cool. And then there are actual dragons and actual White Walkers, and it suddenly is a proper fantasy book. But I like that it was a slow build.
I like the way the White Walkers, all the memes of the White Walkers saying, don't worry, we'll just wait for you all to finish your stories before we murder everybody. What were some of the best points of the entire show? Any time a major character died, which is, okay, who was your favourite character? In the show? Out of everyone, living and dead.
That is definitely tough.
Easy, my boy.
I think in general I will have to go with the obvious choice of Tyrion.
No.
I really enjoy Tyrion.
I like Tyrion, right? But he does not hold a candle to my boy Oberyn Martell.
I did like Oberyn.
I only got a season out of that guy, and I know. Literally, it got to, what was it, season 4 or 5?
It's 4, I think.
It got to the season he's in, right? And you're like, oh, they've killed off most of the likeable characters in the show, and they bring in this guy, and you're like, yes, I've got a new favourite to root for. Bang, dead.
Yeah. By skull crushing.
Once again, due to his own showboating.
Yeah, I'll have to put in the show notes. There's a brilliant poster online of like a wrestling style poster, the Mountain versus the Viper. It was really good.
Oh mate, he's the actor nailed it as well.
Oh,
one of the coolest things I think about the Viper is I've got a friend. No point naming them. He's a bisexual guy, and he said Oberyn Martell is the first time he has ever seen his sexuality accurately represented on the screen.
I feel like there are other things I've seen, but yes, he is a very good representation. I'll have to think on whether I have.
Sort of not necessarily everyone that's bisexual, but his approach to it. It's the first time he'd seen himself represented.
Yeah.
I loved that character. I really liked Robb Stark. I really liked Tyrion. I really like Jaime and Theon because they've had such full, interesting, long arcs. I can't stand Sansa for the same reason. She has not had a full, proper arc.
And she's so annoying at the start.
She's had bits that have been cobbled together. And the problem is she's really annoying at the start, and she doesn't seem to fucking learn from her lessons very quickly. And she keeps hoping everybody will fix her problems for her, and she keeps turning to everybody else for help.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, she does what she does with Peter Baelish, and I'm like, it's just not in character. It's too jarring. It's too juxtaposed with who she is as a person.
Yeah. She's one of these characters that has had the longest again, because I had the books first, well, I made sure to be ahead of the series in the books, at least. And like I said earlier, in the books, she's just this annoying character who you don't really know much about other than she's a Stark, basically. An annoying Stark. And you're like, oh, I like all the others. Why don't I like her? And then, I think it may be 3 books in, you finally get chapters from her perspective, and you're like, oh, like, now I kind of understand her. And then, obviously, she goes through a lot more shit, and she gets better. But
so we talked about things that they did maybe a bit too quick. Something they did too slowly. Arya and the Faceless Men.
Again,
that went on forever.
Again, I think that's partly because in the books it's taken a long time, and they were probably like, I think they did their best.
Yeah, but in the
really
books, doesn't she just disappear for a long time, and then they felt the need to have her on screen because she was popular?
So she disappears, but you have, I think there's a book she's not in because there's the books that split in 2. They have one set of characters in one book and one set in the other book in the other, and they're over the same period of time, which is a bit confusing. Because you like read a whole book and then you go back to the next book and you're hearing about things that have happened that you know about, but in a weird, but distorted, like Chinese whispers. She has had quite a lot of stuff going on in the books, and I think she's near the end of her time in Bravos.
But a lot of it was just on screen. A lot of it just felt too samey.
Yeah.
Like nothing was happening.
She is just being trained over and over again while blind, basically, in the book as well. But again, I think the internal monologue helps with that because it's not just seeing the same thing happen, it's understanding how she changes through that process, which is less obvious until the end in the series. So it is a bit slow. That's definitely a bit slow. I'll agree with you on that one.
Okay, so we knew a dragon was going to die this season before the season aired, right?
I mean, knew, and yeah, it was. I think it was pretty obvious, yeah.
Because they're at the point where what can kill White Walkers? There's 3 things, right? List.
Valyrian steel, dragonglass, fire.
Okay. So, 3 things. And what do they have one of in absurdly large amounts? Fire. So, you're at the point where the White Walkers kind of don't feel like a threat as long as she has the dragons.
Also, the White Walkers can't cross the wall due to magic. I mean, we don't know how that works. We just assume they're going to build a massive... I assumed it was going to be like World War Z, massive pile up the mountain if they didn't have a dragon. So, a massive pile up the wall if they didn't have a dragon.
I thought they were going to have to take one of the keeps and smash their way through it.
There was also, I think it was like the 2nd or 3rd episode, someone noticed in the opening credits something different on the map that implied that maybe they were going to just freeze over a bit of the sea around the wall, which I also liked as a theory.
Right.
But I think using the dragon to just fuck up the magic was obviously the cooler option.
I don't think he fucked up the magic, I think he just burnt the wall down.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's not clear.
To me, I always got the impression, not that they couldn't cross the wall because magic, but that they couldn't cross the wall because look at the size of that fucking wall.
In the books, there's more talk about the fact that there is magical spells were woven into it. Right. Obviously, it's all myth and legend. No one really believes it. But presumably, when dragons exist, you can accept that has happened. The thing I found interesting was, I think the big question everyone had the day after was so he has blue fire. Is he just breathing ice? Because how did he destroy the wall with his ice breath?
No, he's not. There was never any implication that he's not breathing fire.
Yeah, it's just because it changed colour. I think people were like, "Oh, is that ice breath?" And I think it's more reasonable that it's just really strong fire. Yeah,
I don't even think it's really strong fire. It's the exact same fire the other ones were breathing. It's just it's dead. No, the blue fire is there for the same reason that in Star Wars some people fire green lasers and some people fire red lasers.
Yeah. Makes it easier to spot on screen, yeah.
It's literally so that when 2 dragons are fighting, you can see which one's the good one and which one's the bad one.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it was just, it was the thing to talk about the day after the final episode on.
So there's 2 things happening. One, it was alarming how easy it was to kill that dragon.
Yeah.
It makes the other 2 dragons, honestly, just seem a bit shit.
Yeah, there's so many memes about the winner of the Olympic, the Westeros Winter Olympic Games, I mean, I'm kind of hoping Daenerys is swimming. I'm going to put a load of armor on my thing, as she has to have a response.
Gendry got the medal for rowing.
Yeah, just keeps rowing. He's been rowing for 3 years?
Is it bad that I was actually super hyped Gendry was coming back?
He's a good character. And in the
But the character, right, had no importance whatsoever, and I'm like, Gendry.
He's just like a good character. He rocks up. He's got his
he was
hammer.
such a minor throwaway character. Why was I so hyped he was coming back?
But they're often the best, because
I can tell you why I was so hyped he's coming back, because it's Joe Dempsey, and he was fucking brilliant in Skins.
Also that, I mean, I know I didn't watch enough Skins to really...
Mate, Chris was an amazing character. Just season 1 and 2 of Skins, that's all I'd recommend. Anyone listening, anything past that, it gets drawn out, and it's new characters because it follows people at
school,
college level education. So it's only 2 years.
Yeah, I saw like episodes where Bill Bailey was in it and stuff, and I was like, oh.
But seasons 1 and 2 are fantastic shows. Some of the best television's come out of Britain, in my opinion. And he plays a character in it called Chris, who is wonderfully likable and rather stupid.
yeah.
We'll have to put a YouTube link in though. There's a scene where he's trying to get a job. He's trying to be a responsible adult for the first time because he's got a girlfriend now and he wants to impress her. And he goes to estate agents, letting agents to get a job. And the guy goes, "All right, you know what? I'll give you a shot. Try and sell me this cup of water. Pitch me this cup of water. Make me want this cup." So he's stuck, stumbling, stuttering. He can't quite get it out. So he just goes, "Oh, sorry. That's a really nice tie you're wearing." And the guy goes, "Oh, thanks." He goes, "Do you mind if I take a closer look?" Because he just can't get the sales pitch out. So the guy goes, "Yeah, sure." So he takes it in his hand, gets a lighter out and sets the tie on fire. And the guy's like, "Give me the cup of water, give me the cup of water." And he's like holding it back, going, No. It's a fiver. He's like, "Give me the fucking cup of water now." He's like, "Give me the fiver." So he gives him a fiver. He gives him the cup of water to put the tie out with. It's great. He's such a good character, and I think I was hyped for him to come back just because
having not seen as much Skins clearly as you, just enjoyed his portrayal. I knew he was a guy from Skins. That's the only thing I knew going in, and I forgot about that immediately. Oh yeah, she's really good. Yeah,
as is Gilly,
and she's got to go through a lot. Like her kind of
she was from Skins originally.
Wide-eyed amazement at the world is well done. Like because she's just never been outside this house, and then suddenly everything is new and wonderful and crazy. So.
Oh, seeing Skins she plays on, it's a bit mental.
I hadn't realised she was from there too.
Yeah.
I really liked her when she was fish out of water.
She's from Skins as well.
It was last season, or was it the very start of this season when Sam goes back home and she's just put in a dress and she's just like, what's going on?
Yeah. Skins is a show that's launched some major careers. I would say Nicholas Hoult.
I recognise the name.
Beast in the new X-Men films.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
he was in Mad Max Fury Road. He was in About a Boy. That's where you'll first have seen him.
Yeah.
He was the little kid in About a Boy. It was Skins that relaunched his career as an adult.
Yeah.
He was the main character in seasons 1 and 2 of Skins. So where do we think Game of Thrones is going? It's got 8 episodes left. Ooh.
So, I mean, obviously the climactic battle is a bigger version of the battle that went bad for Daenerys this season. Like, I mean, assuming the good guys win, which we have to assume is the end.
I mean, how are they going to kill the bad dragon? The only way they can do it is by killing it with their dragons, right?
It's either they kill it with their dragons, or I have a feeling maybe dragon glass. What's the word? Bolt thrower. Yeah. Dragon glass bolt throwers.
Dragon glass ballista.
Yeah. Because that's something that the White Walkers just don't have. They don't have technology on their side, really. They can create stuff out of ice that's a bit like our weapons. So I think it's going to have to be a ingenuity of humanity versus...
it won't be anything that clever now that George isn't writing it,
Yeah, I mean...
They'll do a season 7. It won't be that clever. It'll be like John's going to stab it with a Valyrian steel sword or...
Takes his head off.
Stupid.
I mean, I would quite like they somehow deal with Cersei. Not sure how they're going to do that at the moment. And then they get Qyburn on side, and he's like, I know I screwed this up last time, but if you give me a load of dragon glass, I'm going to make this work.
Just wildfire.
Or wildfire. Yeah, that could...
Speaking of bolt throwers and Qyburn inventing things, and God, when I thought Bronn was dead.
Can't take him away from us. He's too good.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, no, that scene was really good.
When Jaime was riding at Daenerys, and you're like...
Like, Jaime, you absolute madman. Stop it.
Yeah, and you're like, one of them has to die in this scene, but it's Jaime and Daenerys. How do you...
Yeah, that was well done. Like,
and I loved as well that he saw, like, I just loved his thinking in that scene. You could see it in that he knew you can't fight those dragons. But he just realizes, he goes, I'm going to die doing this, but if I don't do this, we lose the war. Like, it's if I can kill Daenerys, we win the war, and if I don't, we lose the war, and it's that simple.
Yeah, no, obviously he has the tactical mind. That's what he's known for. And he just, like, immediately, you see it on his face. It's very well done.
And I love that he tricks the Allied forces, as it were, using the trick he lost the battle to against Robb, because he learns from his mistakes.
Yeah.
That was really nicely done. Another thing, when the Unsullied were all trapped in that castle, right, because they're surrounded by the fleet, and then several episodes later, the Unsullied are there marching outside King's Landing, I'm like, how did they get out of the castle?
Yeah, that was just left unexplained.
Because there was a big cliffhanger that they were stuck there and they were besieged. And then all of a sudden they're not there anymore. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was... Yeah, I think they just went, we're just going to not explain that.
Okay, so what do we think is going to happen next season? We think obviously they're going to have to fight the White Walkers and somehow win, unless George R. R. Martin wants to go full troll on us.
That would be so amazing. What would be amazing is if the series ends in the Hollywood happy ending, but actually the books, they end the opposite way because George R. R.
Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead. I think it's going to be Jon Snow, King of Nothing. I think he's going to be King of the Ashes. I think that's Game of Thrones' way. I don't think we're going to get a happy ending. I don't think we're going to get a sad ending. I think we're going to get a bittersweet ending. I think we're going to get the man who never wanted to be king as king of a ruined kingdom.
I mean, I think that they've obviously set the fact that he is related to Daenerys up, and that has to now be revealed to him.
Oh, and hold on. The big reveal of the season. The one that some people can say they saw coming, but probably didn't. Everybody knew his parentage. Nobody knew he was legitimate.
Yeah. This is basically, it's been a fan theory on the internet that has, I think, slowly got more and more water. Like, people who read the books were like, ooh, maybe. That there's enough in the books to point towards it. And then I think over the last few years it's built up.
We all knew he was the product of love, not of rape.
Yeah.
Because it's implied over and over again when... Or rather, even if Lyanna didn't love... it's not Viserys, was it? It was Rhaegar. Even if Lyanna didn't love Rhaegar, Rhaegar loved Lyanna.
Yeah.
Enough to snub his wife in public, in front of all the noble families.
Yeah.
Enough to declare her the most beautiful woman on land, when it was generally widely considered all over the world that Elena Martell was the most beautiful woman in the world. And it stands to reason that she would have loved him too, given that he was everything that's been said about Rhaegar is that he was perfect.
Yeah.
He was beautiful, he was noble, he liked and looked after the poor people. Everything about him was perfect. So we all knew he was a product of a real relationship, and that Robert's rebellion was based on not a lie, but on a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody knew they were married.
No, yeah. I think that was the thing most people...
And the fact that it was revealed in such an offhand manner, that Sam hears it and just dismisses it because he doesn't know the other half of the story. And he goes, yeah, just shut up. And all the fans are sat there watching TV going, no! No, pay attention, Sam.
Jilly, she done good again.
Yeah, it was that was done so well.
Yeah, no, that was very
And the fact that John's now going to have to think about what to do about that.
And we all know how John is, like, when he's like...
The best thing he could do, honestly, is just not tell anyone. Just keep it to himself. He doesn't want to be king anyway.
I mean, that's true.
And let's face it, if he marries Daenerys, he's going to be king. Or prince.
Yeah. I mean, like...
Just don't tell anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he feels about it. Like, he having known about the Lannisters, maybe like, I'm not okay with this.
Have you seen the interview with Kit Harington and Emilia Clarke? And they're both just like... just like pretending to be sick. Just like, oh yeah, they're super attracted to each other, but when they find this out, I'm really not sure how they're going to feel.
I don't know if you've seen the video of her, like, you know how she did like the "Where are my dragons" line. There's a version of her like doing that, but then like with it getting more and more like random household items, basically. It's quite funny. I'll make sure to find it and put it in the show.
Have you seen the video of Kit Harington pretending to be a dragon?
Yes, that's amazing.
Well, that'll go in the show notes.
Definitely.
He just stood on a cliff, flapping.
What are 50% of your show notes? They're 50% memes. Yeah, that's the one. Also, I just like that photo of him in his glasses with her. Like, just looks like such a hipster, but he's like in full gear.
Oh God, though. But his hair, I would kill for his hair. His hair is glorious.
I mean, like, well, we've already covered him in a previous episode on masculinity, right? Like,
probably
for his when he's doing stuff for like GQ and stuff.
Oh yeah, he's really quite muscular.
Yeah.
Isn't he?
I mean, it's
quite
under
short.
Like 7 layers when he's recording.
Yeah. So yeah, we've covered what we think is going to happen a little bit. What else do we think will happen? How do we think they're going to resolve things with Cersei? Because let's face it, their armies are going to be knackered after the fights up north. I reckon they're just going to lose the fight up north, and then the Cersei's going to have to fight them herself.
Like, lose as in their army loses, but obviously we still have...
Yeah. Not that they're all dead, but that they have to pull out and retreat and make a new plan. And in the meantime, Cersei goes, oh God, they're actually coming, aren't they? And has to go and send her soldiers out. Or do we think Jaime's just going to take her out? Well, she doesn't have an army left, does she? That's why she's hiring the Golden Company. She doesn't have an army, so Jaime's got sod all soldiers to take north.
He's just going on his own.
The cliffhanger, though, Tyrion. Where are they going with that? How dare they?
Remind me. I'm sure.
So
I just can't remember what you're alluding to.
When we get our second lot of incest, now that our other incest couple's fallen out, right? And Tyrion's just like staring in the darkness, like half covered and spying and really brooding, and it's heavily implied that he's in on Cersei's plan and that he's betraying them.
Oh, that I did not.
Did you not pick up on
that? I just took it as he's like, I thought this was going to happen.
No.
I mean, that would be if he joined Cersei, it would be so against his entire internal monologue in the books that like I can't see it.
But what I can see, based on his dialogue in the earlier episodes, is that he wouldn't do anything for Cersei, but Cersei's pregnant again, and it's not about her. It's about the kids.
That's true. I suppose that has changed, but I think he's from his point of view, the kind of logic I've always seen behind it. I mean, he does say stuff in the books I can't remember off the top of my head, but like, he's like, I'm going to ally with Daenerys. But I mean, I think like the best case for him at the end is that he's, because his dad said he couldn't have any of his titles, but like with Cersei gone and presumably Jaime dies in the fighting at some point, he's the last Lannister, so he becomes Lord Tyrion, like properly Lord.
The way he's brooding and stuff, and the way it cuts from other people's dialogue, it looks like he's betraying them, because he has the deal. He goes and talks to Cersei. He tries to convince her to surrender. She tells him she's pregnant. He tells her she should surrender. Then the scene cuts, and we cut back. And then she comes out and says, I've agreed to join forces with you. And you're like, oh, Tyrion's convinced her. Right? And then at the end of the season, right at the end of the episode, Jaime's like, okay, so when are we sending our armies north? And she's like, are you an idiot? I'm not sending my armies north.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Tyrion. And you're like, there's no way that she could do this without Tyrion realising it. Tyrion knows her better than anyone, including Jaime.
I know. Like, the thing is, there's a whole...
Whether he's betraying them or not, he knows what Cersei is.
Yes, okay, I could accept that. Because he always knows what everyone's up to, pretty much.
And I don't think he's going to betray them. I think it's the cliffhanger's deliberately designed to make it look like he is, so they can surprise them next season when he's not. But they really make it look like he is.
I'd have to rewatch the scene now with that kind of in my mind to pick up on it. But like, I think the thing is in my head is like, there's no way Tyrion would ever betray them, because like, despite the things that George R. R. Martin has pulled in the books and that's happened in the season so far.
Yeah, but once again, you're applying book knowledge to the show.
I know, I get that. I get that.
The show to see.
And that is a problem. But like I was trying to say earlier, I think I prefer not having had the book spoiled, because like, if an episode is obviously spoiled, it'll be over in an hour, whereas the books take a long time to get through. No, yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't looked at that scene like that, so I'll have to rewatch it now.
I've caught it to the right time.
Okay. I'll just watch that quickly. Mouse, come alive. I can see what you're saying.
It's the lighting and the angle.
I get that, yeah. There's kind of a...
And the shame in his face. Because what reason has he got to not celebrate this, right? Davos and Tyrion have both been pushing them towards this as the sensible Because they're both like, but I'm a king and I'm a queen and you should bow to me. No, you should bow to me. Well, if you just got fucking married and were the same kingdom, there wouldn't be this problem.
Yeah, I mean...
So Davos and Tyrion were pushing this for the whole show. Why would Tyrion now see them making love and just go, oh no, this is suddenly about...
I kind of took it more as him just being like, yeah, so that happened.
But there's too much emotion in his face for that. Peter Dinklage is an incredible actor. He's not done
I know,
that
but like, it looked to me like he was just kind of like... So that happened. I didn't get the impression he was super for them getting together. And maybe he knows more about them than he's let on somehow. I don't know how, but maybe he has suspicions and
he does like books.
So it's entirely possible he's read something and he's like, oh.
But he clearly doesn't give a shit about incest already because
yeah.
he doesn't care that Jaime and Cersei had kids. So once again, that wouldn't bother him. Something's bothering him in that scene about the fact they're getting together, or about them and his relationship with them. I don't think it's about their relationship with each other. It's about his relationship with them.
He is also the hand of the queen. Like, there's a possibility there that he's like, oh, am I being usurped? There's a lot of things, like, if you're correct that they're trying to set that up to make it look like he's betraying them, but he's not going to, well, then what was he actually thinking in that scene? So, I think there's enough scope for there to be, like, reasonable...
That is the big thing that's got me hooked on next season, is what is Tyrion doing?
I always want to know what Tyrion's doing, because he's so much fun as a character.
Usually whoring.
Yes, he does do a lot of whoring. A lot of drinking wine and a lot of knowing.
Well, what else is there? So what else do we want to know about the show?
What secrets do we want to kind of find the answers to, you mean? I mean, I feel... I don't know, like, every now and again I'm like, there's no way they can finish this in 7 episodes. And then I'm also like, well, they could just have a big battle. Like,
well, haven't they said that each episode's going to be much longer in the next season?
Yeah, it is going to be. I mean, it'd probably be...
They're going to be basically be movies, each one, aren't they?
And that'll be interesting. But I really don't... I'm really not sure where they're going to go with it. Because, I feel like you either have to solve it really quickly, or they're just going to be so much build-up so they can have one ridiculous final battle and a bit of wrap-up.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm sure they will deal with it better than that. The writers have, in general, done pretty good things. I mean, there's things we don't like, but I think in general, we wouldn't still be here season 7 enjoying it, and it wouldn't still be getting more and more viewers. It had 4 million more viewers for the season finale of season 7 over season 6, so it's still growing in viewership.
So I really want to know more about Asai, or Ashai, however you pronounce it.
Yeah, actually, that's the thing. I want to know all about...
It's supposed to be a city that's so big, you could fit the other four biggest cities in the world inside it. Yet it's only supposed to have a tiny population, and they all wear masks, and none of them ever see each other's faces, and it's where the Shadowbinders come from, and it's on the verge of the Shadowlands where you can't eat anything that grows. What the fuck is all that about?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're probably going to be disappointed in that it's...
Oh, I'm going to be disappointed. They're not going to mention it in the show at all.
So you're just going to be left hanging, I feel.
But they need to do a Lord of the Rings and just publish a compendium if they're not going to publish tons more stories in it.
There is talk about there being prequel shows. So,
oh, mate, there's talk about 4 of them, I believe.
I'm sure it'll get covered in one of those.
Which ones have you heard about?
I just saw that
what ideas were they?
I saw they were making prequels, and I just kind of went, okay, cool. I didn't pay any attention more than that.
I heard a rumor about Duncan Egg, but I think George R. R. Martin has said he doesn't want them to do the Tales of Duncan Egg, because he just wants to write those as books separately.
Eventually.
There's talk of Robert's Rebellion.
Yes, no, that would be cool.
Watch,
I think.
Yeah. There was talk of the fall of Valyrian.
Yeah.
So the Valyrian freehold. Now that would be super cool, but I don't think they'd get the budget to do that justice. Because it takes half their fucking budget every time they put a dragon in the show. So doing a show where they all live on mountaintop castles and ride dragons as like normal isn't something I think they just have the money to do.
Yeah. Apparently they've got a list of 5. There are 5 being officially worked on prequel series, which is insane. I mean, most of them will probably be like a season, I imagine. He's ruled out fan theories that any of them will focus on his characters.
Also, because most of them none of them will be as popular as Game of Thrones. Because they won't be as well written as Game of Thrones, you can guarantee that. Yeah. I've
just found a note in an article from Variety where they say, like you said, he's ruled out Duncan Egg. He's also ruled out Sir Duncan the Tall, Aegon the Unlikely, and Robert's Rebellion, which is a shame because I think that'd be really cool. But I mean, again, it could just be all smoke and mirrors because they're not telling anyone what they're going to be.
Oh, there's different writers for each one, obviously. So, writer number 1, Max Borenstein, screenwriter for Kong Skull Island, which I've not seen.
I've not seen it.
Have you seen that? Okay. No idea what he's working on, though. Prequel number 2, Jane Goldman and George R.R. Martin.
She's Kingsman: The Golden Circle.
Both Kingsman
Oh,
films.
she both? Okay, yeah.
And Kick-Ass.
Ooh.
And The Woman in Black.
That's good pedigree there.
So she is doing... she's not got anything yet, according to this article, but she's writing ideas down and working with George.
You'll have to send me that article so I can add it to this one that I've also got.
Number 3, Brian Helgeland.
Legend is against his name.
Yeah.
Yep.
He won Best Adapted Screenplay Oscar for LA Confidential.
Ah.
And a Razzie for The Postman screenplay.
It's
quite something, isn't it? Getting an Oscar nomination and a Razzie.
The Postman's a very silly movie.
An Oscar and a Razzie.
And then Carly Rae, who's done Mad Men.
Okay, I've not seen that. But it's HBO already, so she's probably going to get whatever she does.
Yeah.
And Brian Cogman. And none of them will tell you what they're working on, so it's just not...
Cogman is noted as having worked on various episodes, such as Stormborn, second episode of Season 7, and Broken Man, which was the episode that introduced Lyanna Mormont.
Okay.
So he's related to kind of Game of Thrones stuff, so he's presumably a good shout. But yeah, 5 prequel series seems like a bit much. I feel like maybe 1 or 2 of them will be like short prequel series, and then maybe one of them will be a decent sized thing. But yeah, won't have the viewership of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and none of them will get the budget of Game of Thrones. They'll all get a big budget for Season 1, and they'll all get a much smaller budget if they get anything more than that, because they will anticipate a Game of Thrones level audience, and they will not get it.
Yeah.
Because Game of Thrones had to build its audience. It didn't get those numbers straight away.
Oh yeah, it was a sixth of the viewership in Season 1.
And I mean, there's good reason for that. Game of Thrones, right, I'm a huge fantasy nerd. You know, Will, who was on previous podcast, he likes his sci-fi. Yeah. Me, it's fantasy all the way. I grew up on Lord of the Rings. I grew up on Weiss and Hickman. I grew up on Ian Irvine and Terry Goodkind and Robin Hobb. You know, I grew up on pure fantasy. But it's almost always done really, really badly.
Yeah. I mean, even the team behind the Lord of the Rings also produced the Hobbit movies. So.
Oh my god. Yeah, but there's reasons that was bad.
There are.
But number 1, they only had a year to plan it when Lord of the Rings took 7.
Oh, yeah.
And number 2, it was supposed to be Guillermo del Toro, and he backed out a year before they were due to start filming. So, what's his face? Peter Jackson only had a year to plan it. And then the studio forced them to make a trilogy out of something that didn't have enough material. They put in a silly, forced love story between a good-looking dwarf without a beard. What is that? Just a good-looking dwarf without a beard?
Yeah.
And an elf, of all things. And if you've read any Tolkien, you know that ain't happening.
Yeah. The closest you get to that is
Gimli and Legolas going on a fucking cruise holding hands looking at caves.
Yeah. I love how everyone who's read any Lord of the Rings, read like fantasy, is like, yeah, we all know about Legolas and Gimli.
Should have covered that in the podcast on masculinity.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, think of fantasy TV shows. Like, how many of them have actually been ongoing for any length of time? I mean, the classic is Xena and Hercules.
Yeah, but they were very hammy.
But that's what they were. You take them for what they are. Then they did the Sword of Truth. Did you ever see that?
I did not see the Sword of Truth. I mean, I didn't watch Xena and Hercules regularly.
Oh, mate, I didn't, but I'm going to. I'm going to go back and watch it.
Fair enough. I could see that being fun.
Legend of the Seeker, that's what it's called, not Sword of Truth.
I feel like I've heard of
So
it.
Legend of the Seeker is the Terry Goodkind fantasy series.
Okay.
And if I find you a trailer, right?
Yeah.
You're going to see what is wrong without even reading the books, I think.
Okay.
And Shannara was on YouTube, which is Terry Brooks. Right, and once again, same issue.
He is the first true seeker in the last 1,000 years. He has a destiny.
And these trailers will be in the show notes for the audience.
Yeah.
It's not. It's prophecy.
Prophecy be damned. What are you talking about? And what's a seeker? Seeker is a hero who arises in the time of Trouble and suffering. Seeks out evil. Fights it wherever he can. Confesses.
An ancient order of women. So no matter how hard people will try to fight it. And if the seeker should arise, protect him for your life.
I mean, the big battle scene looks like it might be good.
What, in Legend of the Seeker?
Yeah.
So it's not a dire show. I mean, I'd recommend it if you don't mind some slightly hammy fantasy.
It looks like it has decent production values, but it looks like it's Once Upon a Time, not... I haven't finished watching it, by the way. I'm like a minute in.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
There's another trailer following it, so... Although those books were once described rather brilliantly as books where the protagonists are only protagonists and only likeable as protagonists by virtue of how utterly horrific the antagonists are.
Right.
Like, the protagonists are basically, like, as the books go on, get worse and worse. So, and the only thing that makes them protagonists is that the antagonists are worse.
Talking about things getting worse and worse, the special effects in this trailer. Oh my god, a sword just flew through the air. That's absolutely ridiculous and amazing. And a weird sex scene. A lot of running and funny face. Oh, he's been stabbed, okay.
And some abs.
Wow, like everyone's already dead. I mean, I'm hoping those aren't main characters, because half of them got killed in the trailer. They better not be. That was...
You know those women in red leather?
Yeah.
They're glorified dominatrixes. They're like the bad guy's personal torture squad.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I mean, that definitely looked very hammy. I mean, American-style trailers are not a thing I really enjoy anyway, but wow. That was...
Right, and then you've got the Chronicles of Shannara, which is Terry Goodkind. Now, both Terry Brooks. Terry Goodkind was the other one.
Yeah.
These are both really big-name fantasy authors, big-name fantasy series.
They all hate each other. The only thing they have in common.
Yeah, sorry.
They hate elves.
Listening.
I'm half elf.
I'm half elf.
I'm the gauntlet. And one.
There are some terrible attempts at English accents in this.
Yeah.
It's Gimli!
As long as it lives, the demons are locked up for all eternity.
He's always good. I don't know if you've ever seen...
Now its protectors.
Like, I mean, he was great as Gimli, but I don't know if you've ever seen... Sliders.
Shannara's got that Kiwi bloke in it as well, who's in loads of stuff just because he seems to be quite good at stunts.
I'll have to see if I know who you mean.
He played Deathstroke in Arrow.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen pictures of him. I haven't seen much Arrow.
Pretty sure he played half the orcs in Lord of the Rings as well, you know?
Jon Favreau.
The chosen. She is your only hope.
Based on the best-selling book series.
Learn how to unlock the power of the elf stones.
The elf stones just look like cheap, thick bits of glass you pick up at a shop.
Pebbles, man.
Yeah.
And look at that elf with a beard, man. You know, Gimli. Like
Oh, he...
that's the only elf I've ever seen that looks like a dwarf.
Oh, I know the Kiwi guy you mean. It was
Yeah.
just on screen.
He's got a really recognisable face, hasn't he?
I mean, I'm always kind of impressed when I see these things that they got made. Like, the level of production value looks pretty high. for
Having
something
watched
that
them both,
also
can you
looks
see the
ridiculous.
common glaring issue? There's two for me.
Well, I mean, I feel like they told me the basic plot of the show in the trailer, which is never great.
No, I don't mean the trailers, I mean the shows.
They're both about white dudes who are fishes out of water.
Nothing that political.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm a fantasy fan, mate. If I didn't enjoy thinly veiled power trip fantasies written by white men, I wouldn't like fantasy, would I?
That's fair.
No, it's... Everybody's got an American accent.
Oh, yeah, no, so at the start, I got that when the guy was
Right,
like...
and it yanks you out.
No,
It's weird. I don't know why it yanks you out. Because this is a fantasy world. They can have whatever accent they wanted.
I think I noticed more... I mean, I noticed the main guy in The Seeker was like clearly like a dumb American accent. I'm not saying that Americans are dumb, but he, particularly as a character, sounded dumb. Like, he's like, what is a Seeker?
Yeah. So either everybody has an American accent, and it just jars with everything that you're seeing.
For reference, I can't do an American accent, so like...
Whereas
people
you watch
doing-
Game of Thrones...
Yeah. It's 'cause 90% British actors.
almost exclusively British actors, but it works with the setting and the visuals you're seeing.
Yeah.
And if anyone in that show had an American accent, it would just be so out of place. And it's not because no one else has an American accent, it's just the visuals don't work with it.
The thing I was going to say, but it's clearly the accent is the reason, but it looks like a soap opera, but with elves.
Point 2 about these shows, the costumes. There's always something about these shows that have lower budgets that are just harder to immerse yourself in than Game of Thrones or than...
Yeah, their costumes look a bit like they're off someone's mid-level YouTube video.
The costumes are all too clean.
Yeah.
They're all cleanly made and pressed and straight off the racks, right? And they're supposed to be characters who've been out in the wilderness for weeks or months. Characters who travel on horseback and live in huts. What washing machine are they using?
We all praise the god Calgon.
I just don't understand. I don't understand why they think that that's not... Because I watch them and something's wrong, and I have to think about what's wrong. I don't have to know what's wrong to know something's wrong.
Yeah, no, I definitely got that. This is going to be weird. Kind of
it hits me in the face, and when I analyse it, I realise what's wrong. But it's so wrong that it's glaringly obvious and it stands out too much.
Yeah.
And that is the problem with these lower budget shows. So traditionally, the reason Game of Thrones is amazing is because it's fantasy done right. And it's very rare, even in Hollywood, that they've done it right.
Yeah.
The 3 Lord of the Rings films, phenomenal work, particularly the extended editions.
And I mean, the amount of effort, like if you watch any of the extended features on the DVDs or Blu-rays, you will see how much effort went into making the armour look realistic, making it all dirty, and all the stuff you're talking about that has drawn you out of these.
And the problem is, that's where the line is drawn. Like, name a good fantasy films. Like, high fantasy films, not like Pan's Labyrinth, full-on fantasy. Like,
I mean, I'm struggling to think of them. I mean...
The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, The Return of the King. End list.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, trying to think of other fantasy films, there's like Never-Ending Story, which was a good kind of 80s movie.
Aragon was meh.
I didn't see Aragon because
it's just a genre that has done. See, I really like the books.
Yeah, no, I like the first book,
but
and then
they changed some core plot things, and it just made me angry.
I mean, I love Jeremy Irons, and I still didn't watch it. So.
And I mean, you've got it's just a genre that's almost exclusively been touched by B movies, and that's it. And
it was like there was a long time of bad pirate movies.
Yeah, it's a huge book genre with a huge following. But it's just been translated badly again and again and again and again into visual mediums. Yeah. And I think it killed the appetite for it. And now this appetite's coming back. And I mean, there are films they did well, right? And if they'd done fantasy films the same way, then maybe they'd have done better. Like Troy. Yeah.
Troy is kind of fantasy in that...
They have the methods to do it. You know what I mean? They just apply the same methods, but they're not interested in it. Hollywood seems to think it's going to be a flop. Then Lord of the Rings comes out, and then fucking The Hobbit was a flop. Hobbit was terrible, but then Game of Thrones has given everyone a renewed appetite, and now everybody is looking for the next Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I believe the Wheel of Time is being made.
I mean, there's been talks about that for years, but yes, I think they're actually going to make it now. In the same way
who's
they
got
just
the
made...
rights to that?
I can't remember. It's not Stars. It's
Sony.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe that was one of the ones which was with Stars at some point, and that's how I'd heard of Stars before they did.
And Stars did American Gods, which originally, who had the rights to American Gods before Stars picked up when it lapsed?
You told me last time, and I forgot.
It's HBO.
HBO
had the rights, then dropped them. Wheel of Time is going to be Sony Pictures. That's 14 novels. I'm incredibly hyped for Kingkiller Chronicles.
I've heard of those.
Super hyped.
I'm not sure if you mentioned them or someone else.
Yeah, no, I will mention them every chance I get. Everybody should go out and read those books. Patrick Rothfuss is a brilliant, brilliant writer who unfortunately has George R.R. Martin syndrome. I believe he's been writing the newest one for about 6 years. The second one was longer than all 3 Lord of the Rings books put together and had to be put into 2 or 3 separate copies in some language just because you can't bind enough pages together to fit the word count in those languages. But the executive producer for Kingkiller Chronicles is Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Oh, yes. That might be why I've heard of it, actually.
So, Lin-Manuel Miranda, for those who don't know, did the soundtrack to Moana, and he wrote Hamilton, which is the most lauded stage musical to come out in many years.
Yeah.
It's been picked up by Lionsgate, I think, is it?
Yes, that rings a bell.
I think Lionsgate picked it up after a lot of negotiating with Patrick. The agreement is that it's getting TV shows, films, and a video game.
Wow.
Because Patrick had no interest in making it into a TV show or a film because he didn't think they'd do it justice, so he kept making more and more absurd demands. And he's had meetings with tons and tons of different studios. They've all approached him over it. And Lionsgate sat down and they went, what do we have to do to get this made? And he went, oh, well, what if you give me, like, I think it was like 3 films, a TV show, and a video game? And they went, okay. And he just looked at him and blinked and was like, are you being serious? And I'm like, yep, okay. If that's what we have to agree to.
We will throw money in your general direction.
And then they've got Lin-Manuel Miranda as the executive producer for the whole project because the main character is a musician, basically.
Okay, right, yep.
And Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote one of the Hamilton songs whilst rereading a couple of pages of the Kingkiller Chronicles over and over again because he wanted to try and capture the feeling that Rothfuss had captured on the page in music.
Oh, that's
and it's the scene when they're all leaving the bar.
Yeah. The not Oh What a Night.
So
Hamilton
it's
fans screaming in the background.
Yeah, it's I'm hyped for that. So yeah, Game of Thrones has kicked off fantasy and it's kicked off an appetite for fantasy, and we just have to hope it's done well because there's a long history of it being done badly. I mean, come on, what kind of fantasy movies have we traditionally had? Conan.
Yeah. Conan, Warrior Without Fear.
I have friends who enjoy the old Conan movies with Schwarzenegger, but I can assure you they are objectively bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
whatever your subjective opinion is, they are objectively bad.
I think it's enjoying... The enjoyment people have for it is a bit like with Highlander and stuff like that, but yeah, I saw one once as a kid.
I mean, other fantasy movies that came out recently, The Last Witch Hunter with Vin Diesel, I've not seen it yet, but I've heard only bad things.
Right, yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to think back. I mean, The Princess Bride is a comedy fantasy movie.
Yeah, The Princess Bride was good. Really low budget, but done well.
Yeah. And they get away with it because it's a comedy.
Yes.
Like, that's the whole point there.
It's a very Mel Brooks-esque comedy as well.
Yes. Yeah, it's not quite as silly puns and on the nose as, say, Robin Hood Men in Tights, but yeah, definitely in that kind of wheelhouse.
What else have we had? I did quite like Solomon Kane, which was quite dark fantasy, but was fantasy.
I've heard of it, but I've not seen it. We've had the atrocious Dungeons and Dragons movies.
Speaking of... somebody's insisted they want to make a new one.
Oh, have they? I'm sure they have.
Joe Manganiello?
I recognise the name.
I don't know what you're going to recognise him from the most. It's either going to be True Blood or Magic Mike, depending on your taste.
I've not seen either, but I think I've just heard his name because he's in True Blood.
But basically, I think he was in... Oh, what was he in? Yeah, he was in Magic Mike 2. And the movie studio turned around to him and said... Right, we love you, we think you're great, you've got a lot of star power, we want to put you as a lead in one of our upcoming movies. What do you want to do? Because apparently they approach actors like that sometimes. They're like, we've not got a movie in mind yet, but we want you to be in front of something. So what is it you would like to do? Apparently he had a think, and he said, do you guys still have the rights to Dungeons and Dragons? And they looked at him a bit funny, as you would, and say, yeah, why? He's like, that. I want to do that. And they were like, are you sure? Because we could put you in front of something people might like. And that's the gist of the conversation. But he went away because the rights were almost about to elapse as well. He went away, found one of his friends who's a playwright. They've hashed out a script based on Dragonlance.
Right, yeah.
Which is one of the huge D&D storyline worlds, which I believe is Weiss and Hickman. Is it Weiss and Hickman? Have you ever read any of them?
No, I've not read. I've had a few like read out on audiobooks. Yeah. Like there was a load of free books.
So it's Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, who also wrote a trilogy. I'm looking at on my bookshelf right now. Forging the Dark Sword, Doom of the Dark Sword, and Triumph of the Dark Sword. Typical fantasy names. They wrote Dragonlance. Dragonlance was a huge like D&D series and world setting. So Joe Manganiello is now trying to, and pushing, and somewhat succeeding, getting agreement to have a Dragonlance film made based on proper D&D source material. And in his interview, outright says, now, yeah, there was kind of a D&D movie already, but it didn't really count. Yeah. He's a proper D&D loving, which is hilarious because he's like this 6'5" guy that's amazingly handsome and has a great body. So you're like, what on earth were you doing playing D&D at school?
You know Vin Diesel plays D&D.
Yeah, but Vin Diesel is odd.
But it's like that.
You know, the character of Riddick is based on his Dark Elf. It's based on his Drow character. That's why it can see in the dark.
There's a video of him playing in a D&D game on YouTube.
Yeah, it's Geek and Sundry. Celebrity D&D and Geek and Sundry. I sent you a link to Joe Manganiello's one. There's also, back on the Game of Thrones topic at last, a John Bradley one.
John Bradley? Google's furiously.
Go on, Google it.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
The Game of Thrones actor who drinks in Pub Zoo.
When you said... I thought you were talking about like the author of the books or something. No, my brain didn't go
There's
there.
a John Bradley Celebrity D&D episode where he's playing with the group. Yeah. For those who don't know, John Bradley is Samwell Tarly in Game of Thrones.
I just honestly didn't know his name. I just know him as Sam. That's the one thing.
He drinks in Pub Zoo in Manchester, doesn't he?
Yeah, I've seen
Which has been renamed the Flower and Flagon. What is that all about? Off your trot. It's still Pub Zoo.
Yeah.
I don't think John Bradley's going to be too impressed with your Ponzi name change.
I also like that Hodor will just do DJ stuff in Manchester.
DJ stuff,
in the village.
Did you know he had to wear a prosthetic giant's penis for one of his scenes?
I mean, I assumed. But I didn't know. It could have been CG. It was impressive. Impressive.
That's one thing that I thought Game of Thrones did brilliantly, is it got a lot of criticism for the amount of female nudity in its early seasons. Because it's HBO, and HBO do that. I mean, have you seen True Blood? If you ever want to see Rogue from X-Men's tits, go watch True Blood. So yeah, it got a lot of flack for having too much female nudity. So rather than tone down the female nudity, they went, "We're not sexist. Here's a bunch of dicks.
Yeah,
just here, have some full frontal cock on your screen." And the Americans are all like, "Oh, what is this?" And they're like, "It's equal rights. You can't call us sexist anymore. We've got male nudity too." So there was that. Yeah. I like that approach. I think it's...
Yeah.
I think it's the right response.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I think there are still people who are quite prudish about these things and they can just choose not to watch the thing.
Yeah. And I've met people who haven't watched Game of Thrones because of the nudity.
I haven't, but I can see how it's still a thing. I mean, I'm sure maybe, like, some people's parents are in that camp, but I don't...
Oh, no, I've met people our age.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I find
I'm sure they exist,
because I fucking love nudity.
Which is that the episode title? I love nudity. Mike.
Being fair, for a Game of Thrones title, it's
pretty close. Yeah, I think there was something else said earlier that I was like, that could do as well. But yeah.
Speaking of people who didn't like Game of Thrones, there was an actor, wasn't there? A very famous actor who didn't like it. And the quote, I'm going to Google who it was. Ian McShane, there we go. So for those who don't know who Ian McShane played...
because he's in it.
Yes. He played the sort of the pastor. Yeah, Ian McShane plays the pastor that the Hound speaks to in season 6 of Game of Thrones.
And he was Mr. Wednesday in American Gods as well.
Yes, he was. So Ian McShane accidentally put spoilers out for the season that he was in interviews.
Yeah.
And the internet got very angry at him for these spoilers. And his response was, "I don't know what people are so upset about. It's just tits and dragons." He had no respect for the show. He didn't particularly like it. He agreed to be in it because Charles Dance was in it and someone else was in it, and they were both his old friends. And he was like, "Oh, it'd be good. I can run into them and see them again." And then didn't share any scenes with them because they died.
Yeah.
And then was upset because he didn't realise this.
Oh dear.
But yeah, he didn't like the show. And the other guy that didn't like the nudity was the fellow that played Stannis.
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, maybe that's why he's got such a sour look on his face the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, apparently, there we go. Stephen Delane, not crazy about Game of Thrones nudity, comes up really quick. He thought it's a gratuitous. He thinks it detracts from the show and from the actual good bits of the show and the characters and stuff. He thinks that the nudity is a cheap way to draw people in and detracts from the rest of the show.
I could see that argument if it weren't for the fact that HBO has been doing this for so long.
It's HBO,
like, yeah, it's like they did it with Rome, and when I was a kid, like 15, maybe that was one of the reasons
when
I
you sat
Rome.
there watching Spartacus with a dick in your hand.
Yeah. Spartacus was very full on in that regard.
So the quote from Stephen Delane is, "I'm a bit old for it. It doesn't particularly appeal to me. Reminds me of German porn from the 1970s. I presume it serves a purpose and the merits of the show far outweigh my concerns on that score."
Fair enough.
Whereas his comments on the positive aspects of the show, I think it's an accurate and truthful reflection of how power operates in different societies, and the relatively small part love and affection play in things. It's a dark view of the human condition that is quite refreshing to see on screen.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think that's one of the reasons it's so popular. Although I do think that one thing that a trend, I think I mentioned it on the drama podcast, in TV at the minute that I find somewhat alarming is that everything is getting bleaker and bleaker and bleaker. And the most popular shows are just the ones that kill their characters off and shock people. But it gets to the point where there's no point watching it anymore. Game of Thrones almost got to a point where everybody likeable on the show was dead, and the only people that were left there was no one to root for.
Yeah.
So, like, at that point, there's no reason to keep watching the show. There isn't a hero.
I don't have a problem with people killing off characters, because I think there was a long period where we didn't kill any characters, and that was bad.
Yeah. There has to be someone to like, right? And you've got shows like Breaking Bad, which, you know, is a good show in its own merit. You've got shows like Sons of Anarchy, good show in its own merits. And Walking Dead, right? Where everybody is a horrible person.
Yeah.
And at some point, that just becomes boring.
Yeah. I kind of watched about a season of The Walking Dead, and
I can't get emotionally invested in a character I dislike.
Well, yeah.
So when nearly every character in a show is unlikable, you have an issue. And I think it's an alarming trend as people try to be gritty and dark, and they take it so far that they fail to grasp what makes people watch it. And it's a trend that I've seen in the last 5, 6, 7 years where it's just become the norm to try and do this with your show. They don't watch because it's dark, they watch because there's a hero or someone that's worth cheering in that darkness. And when you take that away, you're just left with effectively an hour of depression.
Yeah.
But, you know, that being said, Game of Thrones doesn't have that trap because it still has its heroes. The problem I have with it is that it still thinks Daenerys is one of those heroes, and I don't. Jon is a guy trying to do the right thing. I love him to bits. But Daenerys is just an entitled, whiny brat who's used to getting her own way. And I don't understand why she's so popular. I don't understand why people still love her on the show. And if you voice the opinion online that she's not a particularly likeable character, you do get attacked quite quickly. You must be some sort of sexist pig. Because you can't stand a powerful female. I was like, no, like Cersei is a brilliant character. Brienne of Tarth is a brilliant character. Daenerys is an okay character, but they need to stop pretending that she's some sort of perfect messiah when she's just an awful person.
I mean, I wouldn't say she's just an awful person, but I would say she's not the messiah, you know. I get there's the whole Mother of Dragons thing in there, but like, yeah, she's a complex character who people may or may not like. I wouldn't go so far as to say she's an awful person. I think she's trying to do things for the right reason, but she is a bit broken inside.
Oh, I don't think she's doing things for the right reasons at all. I think sometimes she tries to do the right thing, but I don't think her reasons are the right ones at all. I think she just is entitled.
There's definitely a part of that, but I mean, we're kind of coming nicely full circle here. But she, again, I'm probably adding some book knowledge in again, which part of it.
Yeah, which I don't have, and neither does anyone.
But I think even in the show, I mean, she's talking about. Yes, she does want her throne back and all that stuff, which has been kind of like put into her from childhood. But she's also like, I want to free the slaves. Like, but no one's told her that that's the thing she should do.
Yeah, but once again, she's an idiot. Oh, this entire economy runs on slavery. What do I think's going to happen if I abolish it overnight? Huh? The entire economy runs on it. If you abolish slavery, nobody's farming. If nobody's farming, there's no food in the merchant shops. If there's no food in the merchant shops, nobody's eating. Congratulations, you've just starved the entire country out of self-righteousness.
But being an idiot doesn't mean she's not doing things for the right reasons. Like, she can do things badly.
However, it is another reason to dislike it.
I can understand what annoys you as well. Like, I get that.
Because
I can see why it's irritating. But like, I don't think she's like an irredeemable character.
She pouts and throws a tantrum if people have a different opinion to her as well. It's really annoying. And like I said, all of those things are fine in a character. They make the character interesting. What is annoying is the other character's reaction to it. She behaves in a believable way based on her character and based on her history. What's not believable is that everybody sees her behaviour and goes, oh my god, isn't she brilliant? We should follow her to the end of the earth. Like, if I had to pick a leader or a queen or someone to fight my war, it wouldn't be the tantrum-throwing teenager.
She does happen to have dragons on her side, though. I mean, that does somewhat tip the scales.
Yeah, but that's not going to make me like her. It's just going to make me... I mean, it's going to be a tactical consideration, but everyone seems to think she's perfect. It's really annoying. But all in all, the show is amazing. Like I said, the problem isn't the character. The problem is the character's reactions to her. Her character is fine. It's just the writing that surrounds that character is a bit bizarre. It's not very believable, I don't think. This being said, we're talking about a show with dragons and zombies.
Sometimes people say that, and I'm like, there's no reason why you shouldn't hold sci-fi and fantasy to a very high...
That's what makes Game of Thrones... That's what has made Game of Thrones the success it is. Because somehow they've made a show with dragons and zombies, and it's believable. Because all of the characters behave like people. And that is what fantasy is normally missing. Normally in fantasy, everyone's behaving like an archetype. Not in a book, but in a show, because they just translate it badly and do it cheaply, and they don't care.
Cool, I feel...
But yeah, there's so much of that world as well that we really want to explore and we want to know more about, and they're not going to put it in books, they're not going to put it in shows, and I think part of that is it's good in a way and it's frustrating in a way. I want more, but I don't want to know everything, because when you know everything, there's no more questions left to ask, and it's the questions that keep people discussing it. When you explain everything, there's nothing left for people to talk about, which is why some of the best films are the ones that have an unhappy ending, or an ending where not everything is explained, because people theorize, and that is what speculation is what gets people talking. And when you wrap everything up with a nice neat little bow, there's nothing to speculate on.
Yeah, I mean, they have done that a bit more in the series than the books. I mean, there are some characters who they've disappeared off, you don't know what's happened to them, they were in for a bit, and those characters have generally been merged in the series, and
yes, like Jorah Mormont is Jorah and someone else.
A character who's the other character.
Someone else gets grayscale, not Jorah.
And then there's another. The whole Attack on Dragonstone and everything is another relative of Daenerys who's just not in the show at all.
Yeah. There is a Targaryen boy who has because he's a boy, has more right to the throne than she does, right?
I think may not even have been Dragonstone. He's taken a castle, and that's basically all he's done. And the guy who was training him up is the guy who got grayscale instead of Jorah. But I understand why they just took that out. You know, it makes sense that there's so many characters already to put on screen. If they want to wrap it up anytime soon, which they are doing.
Yeah. And speaking of wrapping up, that was, or will be when Tom's done editing it, an episode on Game of Thrones. Tom, have you got the list ready for the next?
I have indeed. Oh, there it is.
The next draw. Oh boy. We never discussed what hat you're wearing today, Tom.
I am wearing no hat. I'm a bad person.
You're not wearing a hat, but you're gonna have to hide all these pieces of paper in your hair and have to draw one.
Oh, topic. Movies.
Oh, excellent. Is it just generic movies, or are we gonna go for a genre? We've already briefly discussed fantasy films.
The topic that we rolled is our top 5/top 10. Like, of all movies, that is an episode that needs thought.
So on my D10, when I rolled a 5, the topic that we've randomly selected is our top 5/top 10 movies.
So we need, that needs a bit of planning. We've got time, but it needs a bit of planning to make sure we actually have a coherent list. We might have to come up with rules, but I feel like top is quite simple. So,
all right. Well, we've been the Hat of Many Things. Thank you all for listening, and tune in next time for our top 5 movies. Fish impression for the outtakes.
And who are you? The proud lord said that I must bow so low. Only a cat of a different coat, that's all the truth I know. A coat of red, a lion still has claws. And how long and sharp, my lord, as long and sharp as yours. So he spoke, and so he spoke, that Lord of Castamere. But now the rains reap o'er his hall, with no one left to hear.